Hey, welcome back to setting up REST API using a MEN stack. In the previous video, we signed up to Mongo Atlas over here, created a cluster for our database, installed Mongoose through npm, and .env for our credentials. We created a connection between our Express app and our database over here using Mongoose. We did that with our db.js file and our credentials are being stored within our .env file. Okay? And we separated it out using URI, database name, user, and password. We also created our first model over here with a schema. So we created a user model with our schema and imported it or required it through our controller over here. Now our user controller has access to our model. So we can start interacting with our database within our user model. Before we get started, if you're new to the channel, I post up tutorials, tips, and tricks for web development, especially for developers that are just getting started. So if that's the sort of content you're interested in, then please do subscribe to the channel. Now that we have our database connection here, we can start interacting with our database. We'll look at CRUD. If you don't know what CRUD is, it's an acronym for create, read, update, and delete. We'll take a look at each one in the next couple of videos. Let's take a look at our routes over here. And we'll go to our user and we'll start off here setting this part up. Let's structure our routes and we'll start off by creating, go here, and we'll separate this out, make a comment, CRUD, create, read, update, and delete. These fall under the read. We'll do create, update, and delete. In a REST, each one of these has its corresponding kind of function or call. For create, we would use post. Update, we'd use patch or put. In some frameworks, patch and put are the same thing. In other frameworks, they act a little bit differently. For patch, usually if you send partial object, it'll update only that object. With a put, you would require the full object and update it all of that at once. But we'll take a look at patch in our example or this series. For delete, there's delete. Those are the kind of functions that we'll be using for our CRUD within Express. And right now, we'll just leave these as is and update these functions as we go. So we're going to take a look at create here. Let's go and to our controller. And we have our index here. And the first thing we should do, we'll create a new function. We'll call it createUser. Here we have our model up here in this user variable here. We'll do const user equals new user. We're creating a new object from our user model. We'll do name. Take a look at what our, and we have name, title, bio. We'll have name, title, bio, and we have date here. I'll leave this because we have it as default. Hey, coming in from the future. Just an error that I noticed as I was filming the later videos. That default is spelled wrong. Default. So that should work now. It wasn't working before, and I didn't notice it until we got to our final video. Hopefully that fixes any issues that you might have while we're going through it. Okay. So let's create a user. We'll do, Chewbacca. 7 foot tall. Wookie. Hans, partner in crime in the Star Wars. Here, spell right now. Save that. Double quotes. We'll get rid of this. Okay. And what we'll do here is we'll do res dot status We'll do 200 for an OK status. Do JSON, and we'll send this user. Right now we've set this up. Let's go and create user, and we'll apply it to this user.createUser. So this user is using our controller up here. So it's accessing our controller, and we created this new function for createUser. So we're doing .createUser. Okay, so that's in our endpoint right now. So we can see that. Now we need to be able to test out our endpoint here. And to do that, we're not creating a front end, so we can't really test it out using like a React or Views or any kind of front end framework. What we're going to do is we're going to install a program. There's two main ones. So there's Postman. Go and install that here, postman.com. Or you can use this one here, or you can use this one here, Insomnia. You can download it by clicking on one of these. I usually install it since I'm on a Mac. I use a Homebrew, brew search Insomnia, brew search Postman, and I'd install it through that. If you don't know what Homebrew is, I have a video that installs Homebrew and other applications through Homebrew. You can check out the video over here in the top right corner, and I'll post it down into the description down below. I have them both already installed, but you do brew install -- cask and Insomnia or Postman if you have Homebrew installed. I'm going to use Insomnia. I find it a little bit easier to use, and you don't have to sign up to it. Postman, you have to create an account. I'm going to open up Insomnia, and let me drag this over here. Okay, so I have this. I've set up a couple of endpoints over here to kind of test out the API. And what we'll do here is, now let's query this. I gotta start up our server, npm run start. I have that, and what do I have here? So I'm using this endpoint over here, and it's gonna test out 3000 host API. So let's try that out. Let's see what happens here. We can see here that, we have here, I'm testing out, I sent a request, and we're getting back Chewbacca, 7-foot Wookiee, Han's partner in crime. And that's what we set up here. That's what we hard-coded over here. If I change this to Chewbacca 1111, let's send that. We're getting it over here. Save that. We're getting it over here, Chewbacca 1111. So we've hard-coded it. That makes sense. We're getting back what we've set up. Now let's save that. Now, typically what you would do is you would send in a JSON request to over here, and it would update over here. So that's how we would have some kind of form or data that's being sent. This data would reflect over here. Let's transfer that. Chewbacca, 7-foot Wookiee. This is interacting as kind of our front end or pseudo front end because we don't have one. If I send this, obviously it's hard coded, so it's not going to really make a change. So what we need to do is we need to figure out how to grab this data over here and display it over here. What we need to do is we would do request from our parameter over here, .body, call, or we would grab the name. And then we would do the same thing for title and the same thing for bio. These would change to bio and title. I'm naming my request here the same as what the variable is here, but if you named it like username, and that was the name of your field within your form, this would have to be username. It doesn't have to be the same as this, but as long as your request is being applied to name. So I'm going to change that back just to more clear. I'm going to send this, but we're going to get an error here because we don't have something that is checking for our we're not parsing out our body over here. We need a middleware to kind of manage that part of it. Let's go to our app.js and get rid of this because we don't need this anymore. We need to add a middleware to this. Now, Express has something called, well, there's a package called body parser. It comes packaged with Express when we install Express. So if we go to node module, we don't need to install it. Already installed over here, body parser. So we just need to include it. We can do that by doing app.use to express.url coded, extended, and we'll do true. And we'll do app.use express.json, save that, send this request again. I think we need to run start again. We send the request. Oh, it doesn't like that. Probably should put it above the routes. Save that, and let's test it again. Yeah, so now it's bringing that information in. If I go and make changes here, we should be getting different data coming in. But now we got that working, so it's able to parse the body. Now that we're able to get that data, now we need to actually add it to our database and use it. Close this, got our controller up and running. The next step is to save the data into our database. So let's go, and what we'll do is user.save. It returns a promise. This, and we can do an arrow function data into here, and we can return our data here. Let's check it out in Insomnia, and what we'll do, send. That is being created. Try it again. We also need to add a catch. We'll have an error. This will give us send a status of 400 for our error, and we'll check our data here. Message error. That in arrow function. There we go. Now let's try that again. So we're getting a bad request here. Getting a bad request here because I made the name over here unique, so we can't add more than one. Now let's go into, let's check out our database, and we can check out our collection. And this should create our men API user. Within our user, we have one document for Chewbacca here. It tried to create a second one, but have in our search index, should show our index here, that it needs to be unique. It won't create another one based off of our schema over here. Based off of our schema that we created in our user model here. So unique is true. Let's go and create another one, so we have a second document. Goku, SSJ, and strongest in the universe. Okay, let's send that. And we got another document created, another user. Do Vegeta, SSA prints SSJ, just like Goku, and he prints of the say, send that. And if we go to our cluster here and check that we should have 3 documents, and we have our 3 documents here. Okay, so we just created Chewbacca, Goku, and Vegeta as our users. All right, I want to go one more step here. And what we did here is, it's okay, but I want to go and create it as an async. Okay, wait, so what we can do here is we can change this to async. Try, and our catch. comment this part out. Is we'll do const createUser await user.save response dot status do 201 for created, and we'll parse out our user. If there's an error, do catch our error response for 400, and it should parse out our error that. Okay, so let's save that, and we should get the same thing. We're just making it a little bit cleaner in how, so we're not using these promises with this dot then and then another dot then. If got another promise through that, we can just use it like this. Let's go ahead, let's do another one. We'll do codewithchu electric on Ash's shoulder. We've got it posted again, and let's check to see if we have 4 now. Should have 4. Okay, yeah, so we have 4. We have the new one over here. Close these. We don't need those anymore. That pretty much covers the create part. Let's do a recap of what we did here. We set up a route for our create user. We created a method here within our controller for create user. We set up a middleware so we could parse out the body and gain access to our request variables that we're sending through over here within Insomnia. Now we're using Insomnia to send requests to our endpoints. And with the information that we're sending, we're saving that that data over to our database over here. We're able to send a request to our create user method. Our user method takes the request, grabs the data that we're sending, and we're saving it to our database over here. We can see that we've saved the data within our collections over here. So we have 4 documents that we've created. In the next video, we'll take a look at how we can read the data from our database, and hopefully I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Hey, if you've gotten this far, thanks for the support. This will help the channel grow. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to click the thumbs up button and leave a comment down below. To stay updated with the latest content from the channel, you can subscribe by clicking right here in the middle.